In history, some events are so disgusting, so vile, they are forgotten. Some events are so dark and full of malice and deceit, they are erased. This is one such event. To those blissfully unaware, this is nothing but a mere drop in the ocean of history, not even worthy of a footnote in a historical textbook. But to those who know, those who lived through it, it is known as the Norwegian butter crisis. Right now, your feeble mind is most likely wondering, what is a Norwegian butter crisis, O great one? To put it simply, the Norwegian butter crisis is the 2011 event where Norway ran out of butter. This will leave you wondering, how does an entire country such as Norway, that is one of the richest countries on earth, run out of butter? I assume you know, as you are funny, handsome, and good-smelling. Well, nothing in life has one factor. The Norwegian butter crisis is no different. Many factors led up to the atrocity, such as the 2010 summer was not kind to Norway. There was 3 long months of cold and rain. Much of the grass across the country could not grow to the amount needed to feed the cows. And as they say, a hungry cow is a dry cow. These horrid conditions led to a 20 million liter shortfall, or 5,238,441.5 gallons, and Norway consumed much more, especially around. To understand why Norway consumed so much butter, we should look at Norwegian culture. The 4 cornerstones of Norwegian culture are and always have been Vikings, cold, polar bears, and ice. But every good square has 5 corners, and Norway's was butter. In fact, Norway consumed 32,315,361 pounds of butter, or 2.5 pounds per capita in 2011. Even some famous quotes from Norwegian culture reflect this, such as, "Give me butter or give me death" by Petrokinle, Bears, Beets, Butterstar Butterica by Jim Halport, and "It's fun to eat" at the BBBB by the Village Behold. BBBB, of course, standing for butter, 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 butter. Most of this butter was consumed during Christmas in classic dishes such as Sandefjordsmør. All of this was made worse by an evil I shudder to even think about. In 2011, a fad diet featuring high fat and low carbs began sweeping the nation, and Norwegians were eating it up. This led to a 30% increase in demand. But surely the dairy industry could see that they were short and adjust to meet demand. Well, they could, if not for Tine was a massive dairy conglomerate in Norway. They owned around 90% of Norwegian dairy. They were a monopoly in all but name, and they did not warn the farmers about what was coming. This was not empty neglect, but as their continued exports of butter showed, outright malice. However, they alone were not responsible, as a dark force was poaching workers from dairy farms. A dark, liquid force known as Norway had something known as the Dutch disease, where the discovery of valuable resources hurts the rest of the economy. In this case, that valuable resource was oil. The rising prominence of oil as an export meant that people would move from working on their father's dairy farms to working on their stepfather's oil farms, and the shortage was in no way helped by When media outlets such as NTB began reporting that butter stocks were running low, people started to panic buy. The situation went from bad to worse, as millions of vaguely innocent Norwegians experienced something very similar to the classic 1996 movie Jingle All the Way, in which Howard Langston, as played by Arnold Schwarzenegger, attempts to find an action figure for his son during Christmas, engaging in tomfoolery and miscreant behavior on the way. But of course, why wouldn't they just import more? Because of Since dairy farming in the Norwegian climate was an arduous endeavor, a 25-knot tariff was imposed on butter shipments. This would nearly double the price by the time it hit the shelves. With all of these factors combined, Norway was on the precipice of disaster, and then they fell. There's no stopping the events that were yet to come, for the chimneys were rustled, and there was no going back. It was time for the Norwegian butter crisis to Christ. All across Norway, the shelves were barren. Where once there was aisles vibrant and full of butter, there are now deserts. Even when the tariff was reduced 84% to Fort Knock, many refused to help, because they did not see the need to set up supply lines for 1 month. As their salvation went farther and farther away, they began to panic. They were crying out for help, pleading, begging, but nothing came. And then the crisis went into full swing. Newspapers were handing out packs of the sweet substance with each subscription. Schools were forced to sell their butter as some twisted form of a fundraiser. Carl Christian Lund decided to use this as some dark PR stunt, handing out thousands of packs to Norwegians. Auctions were selling butter for up to 30 times its God-given price. And then the criminals started to arrive. Everybody from Swedes to Russians were arrested, attempting to smuggle in hundreds of pounds of butter. On the open seas around Norway, duty-free shops were selling the golden goo. But they made it through. Somehow, in some way, Norway persevered. The entire world was watching, waiting for it to crumble under the weight or lack thereof of the butter. And they didn't. In the aftermath, Tyne was put under blame and forced to repay the farmers they had wronged. Other than that, it was forgotten. Each Christmas ruined, each life destroyed, every tear cried was laid away and forgotten. But those who lived through it could not forget. Even today, people will begin to stockpile butter before Christmas just in case. But it may not be over. With population increase, the demand for butter is ever growing. Because of global warming, its liquid form cannot be contained. Each year, we get closer to another Norwegian butter crisis.